Hey guys, this is Anand, and today I'm going to do some gameplay and talk about the T71, the American Tier 7 light tank. This is a tank I was really bullish on when I was first previewing the T57 line when it came out a few months ago. And my opinion on it has only changed slightly. I still think it is not a fantastic tank, and that is mostly because it has completely abysmal DPM. 1600 DPM is completely horrible. There's just no way to sugarcoat that. But there are some real advantages to it, and I'm actually pretty excited because Update 3.5 is bringing a buff to the DPM of over 200, which is quite a bit better. It's still not fantastic, but it's at least much more in the comparable range, and I think that, along with the attributes that it does bring, makes it far more competitive than it probably has been, especially in late game scenarios when you find yourself against multiple tanks and need to carry. There's really no substitute at that point for being able to dish out some damage, especially when you have no armor. So yeah, absolutely. So this is a battle that was actually on my Twitch stream. And it was basically, we were talking about this tank, and everyone wanted to kind of see how I personally feel like it should be played. And light tanks, I feel, can take a lot of different roles. For some people, it's an aggressive scout, where you can go up and spot and run away, or run up in spots and keep them lit up. And for others, it's more of an edge worker, which is where I fall. For me personally, I think Blitz has too small of maps to really be an aggressive spotter. I have no problems being a passive spotter and go and kind of keep stuff spotted, but be able to back out and work in cover. But for me, this tank particularly has some pieces that make it just a fantastic sniper, and that's why I prefer to work more of the edges of the battle. I don't mind being spotted in it, but I want to make sure I have cover that I can always roll back and be safe. The one negative with this tank as a sniper is that low DPM, but the burst damage does help that a little bit, especially when you're sniping. When a tank rolls out and is available to shoot at, being able to do some burst damage and then get hidden again works really well in that sniping role. And the fact that this has APCR as its standard ammunition, I completely love, because it means you're just going to miss far fewer shots. And with also having pretty good dispersion and that burst damage, it's just a unique kind of setup that no other tank really has that perfect combination of for sniping. So that's why I really like to use it in that role. I don't mind spotting in it a little bit, like I said, because it does have that quickness, but it's got a fairly low hit point pool, and of course with the light tank, no armor, it's something that I want to use sparingly and be a little bit careful with. So this game in particular is doing exactly what I have pretty much been talking about and how I feel like I want to play this tank to be most successful. I'm moving around, I'm choosing a lot of different targets. I'm basically just taking what the red team is giving me. Whoever wants to roll out from cover, I can pop out and get 2 to 3 easy shots in and roll back, be safe, let that clip reload, because the clip reload on this is so long. If you're close to the enemy or or in a position where you don't have much cover, you're really a sitting duck. 15 seconds is pretty bad, and the buff is going to bring it down into that 12.5 second reload, which with provisions and boosts should be even better than that. But still, it's just a long time to be exposed without being able to defend yourself with anything but speed. So I just want to go ahead and use that to the best of my abilities. And essentially, too, light tanks are very dangerous in that light in-game scenario like I was talking about. So preserving my hit points and doing as much damage as I can early on, and taking those kind of easy victories with tanks, puts you in a position in the late game to really be a lot more dangerous, and so that's why I want to kind of work the edges of those battles as much as possible. So this was just a really good example, not necessarily the most exciting game, just good awareness and seeing what's happening, really using that mini-map to the best of its capabilities to be able to pick up new targets and easy targets, and just kind of farm damage and support the team as much as possible. Okay, so we're going to move on now to a battle on Canyon, and this is going to have a little bit more aggression and I think use a little bit more separated tactics than that first battle necessarily showed, but still kind of using this tank how I feel like it should be played. So I've talked about it before in other videos, and I'll continue saying I always am going to roll up into the center. Pretty much the only time I don't is in a TD with bad gun depression. I'll even take heavies up here because I feel like on this map right now, the way the meta is lined up, if your team doesn't have at least one tank in this center, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. So when I poke up there, sometimes I will shoot at tanks when I spot them and sometimes I won't. It just kind of depends on the matchup. In a light tank, when I roll up there and have that good camo boost, I won't always take that shot because I can continue spotting, but sometimes I will. And that time I decided to go ahead and do it just because of, I don't know, I guess where I'd already seen the tank's layout, I felt like I was going to be able to get away with it, but unfortunately took a shot in the process. Instantly have to turn on this LTTB because he is flying through, and that's a pretty dangerous tank to this tank, to the T71, because it doesn't have a clip. And also it could really ram the T71 in for a lot of damage, but he clearly has no interest in fighting and just wanted to spot. I think that's a good example of not using a light tank the way I personally believe it should. All you do is take damage and light tanks up for a shorter period of time, and I don't think that's a really healthy use of your hit points. But that's just my opinion. Some people play it well like that, and it's okay. So when the IS rolls up, I can go ahead and empty that clip quickly. Even though I don't get all the pens, he's going to have such a slow aim time, I can go ahead and do that. And that's one of the advantages, I think, to these fast-firing clips. Yes, it's a long reload, but I can put those shells out so incredibly fast that I can hit a lot more kind of ratio of those shells. And I'm always going to be aiming at drive wheels when I can at the same time, so I can make sure I can get that whole clip in. You're not using your DPM effectively if you can't get all 3 shots off. And so anytime I can do that, I want to. I don't necessarily want to trade that for taking a shot to fire those 3 shots, especially in a light tank that has as low hit point pool as this does. But it's something to kind of keep in mind, that you want to fire 3 as much as you can, as long as you're in a safe situation. And shooting those drive wheels is always going to give you a better possibility to do that. So I'm just playing the early parts of this battle exactly how I was talking about in the one before this. I'm just trying to take what they give me and deal as much damage as I can. But by staying in the center, I'm also keeping all these tanks on our left side spotted. If I wasn't here, we wouldn't be able to see them very effectively, and they'd be able to snipe into our team quite a bit easier. Okay, so now that that Nashorn is spotted and then fell, based on where my team is and where the opposing team is on the other side, I just decided to go ahead and push through, partially to go ahead and get rid of this dangerous tank, but it also, I have an easy path now to the flank, because they've all kind of pushed down into that corner, and I can see that my team is going to fall at this point. We have got 2 at 1 shot and another that's not doing particularly well either. And so I'm trying to get the flank and just kind of farm as much damage as I can, because they have quite a bit of hit points left, but they also have 2 low hit points. So I want to make sure that I can finish those 2 off, because of this clip situation on this light tank, I don't want a large amount of enemies, because it's going to be harder to fire and hide and get enough shells off to kill a lot of them. So I want to get rid of the easy ones, and now I have 2 higher hit point enemies left, but I don't want to go screaming in, because I only have 1 shell left. That SP is going to fall. I push forward, but when he falls so early, I decide to go ahead and run, because I only had the 1 shell, so it was I was running a high-risk situation of being shot twice for only getting 160 damage shot off, and instead I can run away and use that camo to reset. I turn around at this point because I know I'm unspotted again, and I'm hoping I can get a quick clip off into that KV3, because I also can tell by the hit point that I'm going to need at least 3 full clips, which takes a lot of time. I mean, that's 45 seconds just in clip reload, so a lot can happen in that time frame. So I need to try and sneak as many shots as I can, because even if those 2 tanks don't have their top guns, they could delete me far, far quicker than I can them. So running back to my initial position, and that's partially because of this particular bush. I know I'm going to be able to kind of sneak some damage in, and just the contour of the topography over here means that I'm going to be pretty protected, and I give myself plenty of time in between to reload these clips, so I can use it effectively. At this point, they're probably best off at rushing, but this is exactly what I wanted to happen. They're playing it a little bit slow, so they're going to give me more time to keep reloading. and be able to do it, because with the high armor of the KB3, I know best case scenario I can kill him in one clip, but most likely I'm going to need another 2. So again, I'm conserving as much as possible. If you get greedy here and start trading a clip from the T71 for one shot of the KB3, you could easily actually start to lose that exchange, just because the gun on a KB3 is really large. And I haven't seen if he has the 100 or 122. It looks like he actually has the 100, which is good, but exactly like I was talking about, I only got 1 shell into him on that clip because of the high armor and the angles, and one shot took a third of the hit point pool that I have left. So I'm making good decisions and just being careful with it. And now once I'm reloaded and it's much easier, where I only need 2 more shots, I can be a little bit more aggressive and kind of run in here to go ahead and finish him off. End up needing 3 shells instead of the 2, but can go ahead and get the victory. So battles in this tank can be boring because of the long clip reload, but if you're playing it right and conserving hit points, I think that's something you should have. So hopefully this helps a little bit. Changes to this tank coming, obviously, with 3.5, and I don't think it's going to change the gameplay a whole lot. I think it'll all play the same way. It's just you'll probably lose a few more shots from the front with the lower penetration. So hopefully this helps, and take care, guys.